Okay, we're going to get going because it's 7 o'clock and I like to start on time.
Does everyone have a handout? Okay.
Good, and we'll put some things there for people to come and get as they're coming in. Okay, thanks so much everybody for being here. This is going to be kind of a fun class, and hopefully it'll be interactive. Hopefully we get a lot of good ideas. This is not an end-all be-all about food. You know, there's going to be a lot of things that you're still going to wonder about, and the cool thing is, if I say it out loud now, this has to happen. My daughter and I are actually writing a series of cookbooks, and so we should hopefully have the first one out by the first of the year.
I can't wait.
I know, and it's actually going to be a really fun book. It's called All About the Bowl, because every single dish is served in one bowl, which for a mom, that's like the most fabulous thing ever. And this is honestly how a lot of the way we cook in our home is. We line up the ingredients, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the ingredients should be in some of those bowls. But we make bowls, and everybody loves them. And it's funny, I have now a lot of college kids coming with my kids, and they always want to come over for food. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of nice that they want to come over for food. And I think it's because we make food taste good. And we're going to talk a lot about, how you make food taste good and be good for you at the same time. So, I wanted to talk about what we are going to talk about and what we're not going to talk about. We're not going to talk about what not to eat today. We're going to talk about what to eat, because I'm all about the positive side of things and empowering you to do something more and to do something better rather than telling you you're doing something wrong. So that's what we're really going to focus on. I love this picture. Finally settling down to my vegan, gluten-free, soy-free, antibiotic-free, raw, non-GMO, organic, fat-free, zero-carb meal. It's a plate of ice. So, we're trying this new way of eating. Pretty sure it's going to work, right? So sometimes, isn't this how you feel? My mom sent this to me because I'm the crazy one in the family, just the way I am. But it's interesting to see how a lot of the crazy things that I've done for a lot of time are actually kind of starting to be talked about a lot more around anymore. So when I grew up in the low-fat era. Did any people go through the low-fat era? Probably everyone in the room, right? The low-fat era. Anyone have Snackwell's cookies? No? Snackwell's cookies? Oh, yeah. Those things tasted horrendous. But they had no fat, so they had to be good for us. The margarine era, everything had to be low fat. The boneless, skinless chicken breast, I think that's what generated the boneless, skinless chicken breast craze, was the low fat era. All of those things. And as I think back now to how I was raised and the food that we ate, as I was growing up, we always ate healthy. But as I look back now, I realize a lot of it was about weight, about being low fat, about being low calorie, that sort of thing. So I didn't really completely know what healthy eating meant as well, as I was growing up. But I always had issues with food. I'm still sometimes have issues with food. But I remember very distinctly one time I was on a date, and the guy I was with on a date came over to my house, and my whole family ate ice cream, and I ate a carrot while they ate ice cream. I'll always remember that. Me eating a carrot while they ate ice cream, because I just knew the ice cream made me feel terrible. So I didn't eat it. So a lot of the things that I feel and the problems that I've had digestively have driven my food choices. But they've also driven or helped me to learn good food choices, if that makes sense. So I think that some of the challenges I've gone through have really helped me to learn a lot about food. And I've had to learn a lot about food and how to cook different food and how to make food taste good that's better for us. Is anyone confused about it now? I love this picture. When did eating get so complicated? Doesn't it feel that way today? Like, eating's so hard. Why is it so hard? And are you confused? What does paleo mean? I didn't even know how to say paleo forever. Like, I couldn't figure out how to say it. Paleo, keto, raw, detox. What are we supposed to do? Vegan. What are all these things? What do they mean? Today, we're not going to be in any camp. Because a lot of these words over here, these are camps, right? These are camps that people kind of set up camp and they preach all about their thing. We're not going to be in any camp today. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about why we eat the food that we eat so that you can make your own food decisions without having to join any camp, without having to be on any team or off any other team. Some healthy eating myths. These are always interesting to me. So there's a myth that healthy food is expensive. It can be true. Right? It can be true. In fact, just this evening, I had a guest here from out of town, and so we went to eat, and we went to a restaurant, and there were five of us, and it was over $60 for our dinner, and I thought, and this was a counter service place. I thought, that's expensive food for healthy food. So it can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be expensive. That's the key. It doesn't have to be expensive. This is another myth. Healthy food doesn't taste good. I had a patient in just this last week. He looks incredible. He's lost probably 60 pounds. He's completely changed his whole lifestyle. He stopped smoking. He looks great. And I've seen him now probably maybe 2 cleanings in a row. So he's been able to keep the weight off for a little over a year now. And so we were just complimenting him on how great he looked and how good a job he was doing, keeping the weight off, all of these sorts of things. And he said, it's not always easy. He said, it's not easy eating food like this. Sometimes I just want to eat something that tastes good. I thought, really? The food you eat doesn't taste good? It doesn't have to taste bad just because it's good for you. Another myth is eating healthy is too much work. Can it be a lot of work? Sure, it can be a lot of work, but anything can be a lot of work. Not healthy food can be a lot of work. So there's ways to make it simpler. And then it's too hard to figure out what to eat. Well, that's the whole purpose of tonight, is to try to help give you tools so you can figure out what to eat. I love this picture. You are what you eat. Literally, food is your fuel. So if you put fuel into your gas tank and it's poor quality fuel, it has water in it, it has additives in it, your car's not going to run the same as if you put the highest quality fuel. I don't know about you, but I never pick the end one, like the most expensive. I always pick the middle. I don't know if it makes any difference at all. But in our bodies, we really should always pick the end one, the better fuel, because the food is our literal fuel. Think about it. How does our body run? It has to run on the fuel we put in it, and the food is the fuel. So it's not a surprise if your body isn't working well if you don't fuel it with good fuel. If you're filling it with processed foods, chemicals, fats, sugars, all those kinds of things, it's not going to work as well. Your cells are not going to run as well as they could. So there's this little thing called an apostat that's fascinating to me, and I learned about this from a friend, Karen Urbanik, who's amazing. And it's called an apostat. So it's like a thermostat. On the wall we have a thermostat for the temperature. Well, this is an apostat that keeps control of your appetite level. The apostat basically turns on and says, you're hungry, okay? Has anyone ever felt this before? I'm hungry, I want some food. What the apostat's looking for is what your body actually needs. So it's not just food, it's fuel. Right? It's building blocks, it's nutrients. This apostat turns on and says, I need nutrients. I'm running low on the things that I need for my cells to run well. So if you feed your body food that's devoid of nutrients, the apostat stays on and you keep eating. Has anyone ever eaten this is why you can eat a whole bag of chips and still feel hungry. Because your apostat stays on and says, you're still hungry. You've not fed me the nutrients that I need to run properly. So this is trouble, right? If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to be healthy, because your body will tell you you need more, you need to keep going. Sorry, I'm trying to see the rest of my notes here because this is a lot on here. But there is a little bit of caution right here on this part, because your body, literally every single cell, is made of the foods you eat. Once you start eating good foods, if you haven't been, your body's going to kick out all the crap and it's going to allow in all the good stuff, and all that junk is going to be leaving your body. So when you change the way you eat, sometimes you're going to get rid of everything through skin, which is going to show up as acne, through bowels, loose bowels, through sweating, maybe stinkiness. Everything it's all going to go. That's a good sign. Stick it out as you're working all that stuff out. Don't know how to make this go to the next slide. That's the problem when you're trying to be tricky with a computer. Sometimes you don't know how to be tricky. But it's not. It's because I tried to get into my notes. All right, we're going to end and start again.
Somebody be entertaining on Facebook Live.
Exactly. Someone be entertaining. Quick, quick, quick.
Time to vamp.
Oh, look, I found it. Yay, there we go. Okay, so this quote by Hippocrates, let that food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So what is your goal? What is your goal for eating better? Is it to feel better? Is it more energy? Is it better athletic performance, better stress management, lose weight, just overall improvement in your strength? Is it to conquer chronic disease? You know, what is it? Food can be the medicine for all of those things. It really literally can, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, let's clear up a few things. Restrictive diets don't work. So what's an example of a restrictive diet? Keto. Okay, what is it restrictive in?
It's restricted carbs.
Carbs, right? So it's a restrictive diet. Okay, so that would be an example of a restrictive diet. What else might be a restrictive diet?
In the 80s, it was no fat.
Low fat. Yep. Okay, so that was restrictive. We weren't eating fat. Okay, what else?
Low calorie.
Low calorie. So restricting calories. Okay, good. What else? Atkins, basically keto. Yeah. Vegan
Oh, yeah.
is a restrictive diet.
Very.
So the problem with restrictive diets is that they do starve you of some things. And I'm a big believer that if we weren't supposed to have all of those things, then they really wouldn't have been created. So I believe that if we have carbs, then maybe we need carbs. If we have fats, then maybe we need fats. So these types of restrictive diets are good for short-term therapy. So they're great for someone who's trying to, let's say they're trying to balance themselves after a disease. They're trying to do certain things. They're trying to lose weight. They're trying to actively do something. That's okay as a therapeutic diet, but it's not okay as a long-term way of life. That's what I want you to think about, is a lot of those restrictive diets are not okay as a long-term way of life because you do miss out on things that your body needs. This was a really eye-opener. This was a real eye-opener for me. One of my, it was actually one of my team members a few years ago. She had always grown up struggling with weight. She'd been a cheerleader. She'd been very active, and yet she said she was always like the chubby one, you know. And so she said that growing up, she didn't have any idea what healthy foods meant. She thought healthy foods were 100-calorie packs.
Me too.
That was her, you too? Yeah. That was her mom's definition. Well, that was just their family's definition. She really, literally had no idea. That was the first time I realized not everybody knows. So we need to help people understand what really is healthy. And there's a lot of confusion about this. There's a lot of confusion. And the problem is the marketing, the messages don't help because they want us to believe that this equals health, right? That's what they want us to believe. So we're going to get real about what real food really means. So what I'm going to talk about today is what we call the slow food diet. Simple, local, original, and whole. And we're going to go through each of these things, talk about how following these 4 rules, you're going to be able to choose what to eat anytime, and it's going to be able to, and you're going to not have to follow any kind of specific set camp, any specific restricted diet, none of those things. So simple. 3 things under simple. Simple recipes, simple flavor combinations, simply whole food. Just simple. So let's go through each of these one at a time. First of all, simple recipes. If any of you opened a recipe book and looked at the recipes and just went, well, there's no way I am making that, because there's like 50 ingredients. And you think, what in the world? How am I ever going to find time to put all those things together in a pan and turn that into something? So I'm a big believer in less is more. As far as food ingredients, as far as prep, all of those sorts of things, less is more. I'm a big believer in 1 pan, 1 bowl. You know, if you can get it in 1 pan and 1 bowl. So you'll see, and I apologize, I don't have these notes on there, but I have a lot of recipes and things, so flip it over right on the back. I have a lot of the recipes in here, though, that will fit along with these categories. So easy prep, 1 pan, 1 bowl, easy to clean up. So one of the rules in my family is we cannot sit down to eat until the dishes that we've prepped that food with are done. That's just a rule that we follow. And it makes it so much easier as a family because everybody's kind of hustling because they want to eat, you know. So everybody's hustling and washing a pan real quick and putting it out, or, you know, getting it put away because we want to eat and we enjoy that food, but it should not be a burden to cook it. It should not be a burden to cook it. It should not be a burden to serve it. And it should not be a burden to clean up after it. That is a huge thing for me. How do you make things taste good? Spices. How do processed foods make things taste good? You know, sugar is one. Salt. Fat. You got all three. Sugar, salt, and fat. That's how they make things taste good. Do we want to add extra sugar, salt, or fat?
Not sugar. What about fat?
Depends on the right kind of fat. Exactly. And salt
I
is...
am too old to understand all these changes. There's been so many different
That's why we're
kinds
going to
in
simplify
my-
it out right now for you. Simplify it out.
Okay,
Yep,
ready.
yep. You're ready. She's like, I'm ready.
I really am.
So sugar, salt, and fat are the ways that processed foods make it taste good. You're going to make it taste good by spices, acids. Okay, this is a real important key. Acid makes things taste delicious. So what's an example of an acid? Vinegar, lemon, lime. Is there nothing that doesn't taste better with a little lime juice squeezed on top? Okay, so that is a way to make things taste really great. And then cooking foods in a way that make them taste good. Has anybody eaten a soggy piece of broccoli? You know, it's interesting because I remember growing up in school lunch, it was actually in the days when they cooked school lunch, and it was real food. It's not anymore, but it was then. So when they made school lunch and they cooked and it was real food, they served us spinach. Did anyone have school lunch spinach? What color was that school lunch spinach?
Yeah. Really dark.
Really dark, really not appetizing, right? So if that's all you'd ever experienced was slimy spinach, how likely are you to put that into the food that you're cooking for your family? But has anyone made spinach and it actually tasted pretty darn good? And it actually was like still green, you know? So there's ways to cook foods that make them taste good, that make them appetizing. It's so interesting to me. So when my boys were younger, they'd say, hey mom, like Nate wants to come for dinner. Are you making anything weird? It's like, well, I'm making spinach, or I'm making spaghetti. So you making spaghetti like your way of making spaghetti, or are you making spaghetti like the normal way of making spaghetti? It's like, well, I'm going to make it my way, but I bet you Nate's going to like my spaghetti anyway. And, you know, because we sneak in a lot of things. One of my daughter's friends, her mom came up to me and she said, will you please give me the recipe for your salads? Because my daughter won't touch a salad at my house, and she eats every salad you make. So I grew up with salads that was iceberg lettuce with cut up tomatoes, carrots, and celery. I despise that salad. And ranch dressing out of a bottle, right? I despise that salad. If that's the only salad that I ever had, I would not eat salads either. So there are ways to make healthy foods taste amazing. In fact, I just had a whole bunch of college kids over at my house on Saturday, and they were all there. And I was in the middle of canning, and I thought, what the heck am I going to feed them? So I went, I'm like literally, my daughter's like, Mom, you're a magician with leftovers. Because you know how you look in the fridge and just go, okay, I know I can do something with this. So I looked in the fridge and went, this is salad all over the place right here. So I pulled out all these different things. I turned them into something else and made these salads, and they were delicious, and it was all in one bowl like we do. And one of my son's friends came up. She's like, that was the most delicious salad I've ever had. I'm like, I know. I worked so hard on it. You know? But you can make healthy food taste good. Do not believe you can't. So this is one of the things, and I wish I'd put this in your handout and didn't. But this is one of the things that I live and die by. Simple flavor combinations. So if you want to make a cohesive meal, these are really good things to know. If you want to make something taste Mexican-y, you add those three things, chili powder, cumin, and lime, and anything you make is going to taste delicious. So you add that to vinegar and oil, and all of a sudden you have now a Mexican vinaigrette. You add that to the water that you're cooking the rice in, and all of a sudden you have Mexican rice. You add that to meat that you're sauteing or veggies that you're sauteing, and all of a sudden you have fajita flavored veggies. Does that make sense? And so I typically will follow these flavor combinations in the entire meal. So if we have, let's say we have rice and a salad and, you know, some other sauteed veggie, I'll put those things in all of the dishes I'm making. They all taste right. They all taste like they belong together, and they taste delicious. Thai. I love Thai food. Thai is so easy to make. All you have to do is add some fish sauce. If anyone knows what that is, it is like rotten fish. And it smells horrible, so do not ever open the bottle and smell it intentionally, because then you will never eat it. But it makes it taste so good. Fish sauce, sugar, and lime. Indian, turmeric, cumin, and ginger. Barbecue, tomato sauce, vinegar, and sugar. Mediterranean, you get the idea. Lemon, garlic, and basil. If you have those things, those 3 combinations, and I try to keep them to 3, your food will taste amazing. And people will tell you, this is the best salad, this is the best rice, this is the best whatever that I've ever had. And it's simply because you put the right flavors together.
What kind of sugar would you use?
If I'm making Thai food, I like a browner sugar. So a coconut sugar, something like that. It has a little bit of a more mellow flavor to it. I don't like to use, in fact, I don't have white sugar at all in my house. I have to go down to my food storage if I ever need it for something. So my mother says she cannot cook in my house because I don't have normal flour, I don't have normal sugar, I have nothing normal. So I just keep coconut sugar in my sugar container, and that's what I pretty much add to everything.
And that's better for you then?
It's a little better for you. It's still sugar, but it's a little mellower flavor, so you don't need as much. It doesn't have quite that sharp bite to it. So I like coconut sugar. That's what I use a lot.
You don't have to use very much in these recipes, so it's
You
not
don't.
like
It's
you're
just like a
using
little,
it.
it's a little,
Okay.
teaspoon you're just dropping in there, and it just flavors it, and it just tastes delicious. Simply whole food. It's interesting because they've done studies on the apple. They've tried to identify every single compound in an apple that is good for your body. They've tried to identify every single one, and what they found is they can't. They can't pull out each thing individually and say, if we turn this into a pill and give it to you, you're going to be as healthy as eating an apple, because it's the synergy of all the things working together inside that apple that makes that apple really good for you. So you need to eat the food in the form it came in the whole food, because the ingredients in that food work together to really increase the health of that. Our bodies also recognize food in their whole form like this. When you give them foreign versions of these things, our bodies don't recognize it. And we store fat as an insulator against things that we don't recognize. So if you're feeding your body a lot of foreign things, a lot of processed foods, your body will store fat to protect yourself from it. It's just the way it is. So you'll have a real hard time losing weight because of it. Okay, L stands for local. This one's an interesting one. This is also one I had to realize not everybody understands where it's grown, when it's grown, and in nature's amount. Nature's amount is a fascinating one we're going to talk about here in a minute. And I don't know why, I picked a really bad version of myself in this picture, but it was in the middle of a video. I didn't even care after a while. So I do garden, but I know that not everybody does. There's sources for good food, and the interesting thing about locally grown food is it's grown when it grows where you live. Why does that matter? Our bodies are very accustomed to cycling with the seasons, cycling with what comes along. So I didn't realize this either. This is actually the next slide. I guess we'll go into it a little here. I didn't realize not everybody knows what grows when. Because I've always grown up gardening, so I always know when things are in season because they're in my garden. But I didn't realize not everybody knows that. So let's walk through this just a little bit. So what grows in the spring typically? Anyone who grows a garden, what typically grows in the spring? Peas. What else? Lettuce, spinach, all the greens, right? Kale, lettuce, spinach, radishes, green onions. Those things are all very detoxifying kinds of vegetables. So in the spring, when we live in a place that has a spring, in the spring, our bodies want that kind of food. I just kind of want you to switch your mind around to this. If that's what's available here where we live, that's what we should eat during the time it's available here. So sometimes, you're probably not growing your own food. You can go to Costco and buy a thing of spinach in the spring, right? You can go and you can follow some of the seasons. Let's keep going. Summer, what grows in the summer?
Raspberries, strawberries.
A lot of the fruits. How about veggies? Tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, cucumbers, beans, green beans. Those are all summer foods. If you think about those kinds of foods, they're all full of energy. Those are great carbs, right? Great carbs in all of those foods. Well, what do we need in the summer? we're usually living longer. Like we're waking up earlier, we're going to bed later because there's more sunshine. We need a higher bank of calories in the summertime. Fall, what foods are available in the fall? Squashes, some of those late fruits, apples, pears, peaches. I have 2 big boxes on my table right now of pears and peaches. Those are the things.
Sprouts. When do those grow?
Brussels sprouts are pretty much actually the entire season. And they're good detoxers as well. They work in cold, so they'll work all the way from spring all the way to cold after frost too. As will all the cruciferous vegetables. So broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. My cabbages are still in my garden, even though it's probably going to freeze hard tonight. Those things all work fine. So those are nice staples for all year round. And they grow all year round. Again, I want you to think about this. Now, wintertime. What's available in the winter? Foods you stored.
Oh.
What foods store? Apples, potatoes, squash. Think about what all of those are. High starchy foods, right? Why would we need a lot of starch and a lot of things like that in the wintertime? Keep us warm. To keep us warm. We live in a cold place. To keep us warm. And then spring comes around, and guess what we need to do from all that starchy food? Detox, which is when we start to eat spinach and greens and lettuce and all those things again. See how this makes sense? So if we're eating on Ecuador's timeline, which never has seasons, they grow things all year round. If we're eating the way that they grow food, our bodies really aren't made for that. We don't live in Ecuador. We live here. So we should eat the way that nature provides food because it provides food that we need at the time it provides it. I know that's a little tricky. It's a little sometimes hard to wrap your mind around. Yes, Laura, from the back.
When you say that the winter foods keep you warm, what do you mean? Does that mean you're going to get fat on your body to keep you warm?
You may. Think of what bears do.
I'm
I'm
not interested.
not interested in that. Just wear a big coat and you'll be fine. But it's what your body needs. It's even resilient, creates some resiliency against that cold and helps your body to perform better. So not necessarily you're going to hold on to the fat. It just gives you a little bit more to be able to be resistant to that cold weather. Yes.
So is it with the foods that we eat? So if we're eating squashes right now, isn't that like a detox for our colon or our liver? Like, does it detox certain things?
Good question. Yeah, all those things. Each food operates on a different system. So if you eat a variety of foods as well, if you eat the same food, so thank you, that segues into the next slide beautifully. I learned, this one I had to really think a lot about. So someone asked me, they said, okay, at the time I was making green smoothies for my family 365 days a year. And in those green smoothies, we were putting about 6 cups of spinach a morning. We're feeding a lot of people, but about 6 cups of spinach a morning. We're cramming in the blender, blending them all up. And someone said, do you grow 6 cups of spinach a day all year long in your garden? No. When I have really great years, I probably grow maybe a handful of spinach every day, all day long in my greenhouse. So should we be eating 6 cups of spinach year round?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Remember that lady that had holes in her teeth because she was eating too much spinach?
Yep, exactly. We did have a patient who her teeth were literally melting away because of what's called oxalic acid, the oxalates. Yep. So we need variety. So the seasons offer us variety as well. The other thing I want you to think about is how hard are nuts to harvest? You ever tried to open a walnut before? Or an almond before? Please no. I mean, literally, do you remember like the old days when we used to get nuts for Christmas, and you had like the nut crack? How hard was it to get a nut out? It's hard work. So do you think we should make a cake with 3 cups of almond flour? Are we really meant to eat that much nuts? Or would nature have made it easier for us to harvest them? I just want you to think about these things. These are kind of some interesting thoughts, aren't they? It's like, maybe we should take nature as a guide a little bit here. If nuts are hard to harvest, perhaps we should eat them enough that, sparingly or just in kind of the amount that they're made. In spring, have all the green smoothies you want. But in the wintertime, maybe you don't need them anymore. So I've actually changed. And so I don't do green smoothies in the winter anymore. Now I do it's called golden milk. I don't think I have the recipe on there. Laura, will you remind me and I'll send that out as an email? It's called golden milk. And I'm like, my mouth's even like drooling thinking about it, actually.
What is it?
It's quite delicious. I make it with an alternate milk of some variety, whether it be almond, now that I just said that about almonds, whether it be almond milk or some other milk, hemp seed milk, something delicious like that. You blend up turmeric and ginger along with a little bit of sweetener and some I do like cinnamon. I put a pumpkin pie spice typically, so it has cinnamon clove, so it's warming, very warming. Sometimes when I drink this in the morning, I'm so sweaty, I have to like undress. I'm like, why am I so sweaty? But it's warming me up. It's warming me up. So it's, again, think about what you need in the season, what nature's provided. Use that as your guide.
Michelle, do you warm it up and you drink it warm, or is it?
You can drink it cold or warm. I put it in my blender on the soup setting. And it just goes and blends until I pour it out of my blender hot. Yeah, yeah, and it's breeze. It makes the blender go for a long time. It goes for like a minute and a half, but it's okay. So, yeah, you can drink it cold as well, but I love it warm. And I would make this drink. Actually, I have a couple versions. I'll send them on the thing. There's also an Ayurvedic drink that's similar to that. That's a very warming drink, and it warms you up. So we live in a weird world now. You know, if I were to have this talk 100 years ago, everyone would look at me like I'm a crazy person that I even have to explain this, because everybody lived off the land, and that's the only place you got food. I remember this story of my grandmother, and she loved green onions and radishes. Loved green onions and radishes, and I never knew why she loved green onions and radishes. You think of why she might have loved green onions and radishes? She grew up in southern Alberta, Canada. Why would she have loved green onions and radishes? What would she have been eating all winter long? Anything that was stored. And they called March the hunger gap, because your stored food's running out, nothing's growing yet. So by April, May for sure, when radishes and green onions are in the field, they taste like candy if you have not had anything fresh for 6 months, you know. So she said she would sit in the field and eat them straight out of the ground. So we are very removed for that, because can we go to the grocery store right now and get anything? Anything. So it's really given us a hard time to figure out what we're supposed to eat, because we can get anything, any time of the year. So start paying attention to nature. Start just using your mind and noticing things. I think you're going to find some interesting things when you do that. Third one is original. What does original mean? So we're going to talk about no fake food, not fillers, and minimal processing. The food is the cheapest that it's ever been right now, ever. And is it getting toasty? We'll use the thermostat instead of the apostat. And turn it down. Whoa, good heavens, it's like super high up there.
It is hot.
Okay, I'll turn it down. We'll go down a little bit. Food is the cheapest it's ever been right now. In fact, the United States spends the least amount of their income on food than almost any other country. Why? And the government subsidizes it, and the food industry has become all about creating an abundant supply of cheap food. How do they do it? Fillers. I dove into this as I was studying this. It's pretty disgusting. A fast food cheeseburger costs less than most supermarket vegetables. That's super sad. I remember watching a documentary where they followed a family who was low income. They went to a drive-thru. The family knew exactly what to order. Like the dad ordered like 2 of these meals, the mom ordered this, the kids ordered this, and it was quite cheap by the time they pulled through, and they had a lot of food in front of them. Then they went to the grocery store and they said, okay, we're going to spend the same amount of money that you spent at the drive-thru in food. What do you like? So I remember this little girl ran up to the pears and she said, I love pears. I want to buy pears. So they measured out the pears on the scale. She couldn't even buy 1 pear for the amount of money that she'd spent on the cheeseburgers she got at the drive-thru. So can you see how this is really driving the food industry? The cheaper the food becomes, the more of it we eat and the less of this whole foods that we eat. The problem is that these foods are filled with fillers. They're additives that bulk up the weight of the food very inexpensively. There are things like cellulose, which is basically like ground up pulp of wood pulp, bamboo, a whole bunch of things that add volume for cheap. It's not really food. It helps keep the price down so that they can keep feeding us this kind of thing. Unfortunately, when you feed your body that sort of food, your blood sugar spikes, it depletes your insulin. Has everyone heard of insulin? Basically, when your sugar spikes, the insulin has to come and grab the sugar out of the blood and put it where it's supposed to go. So the insulin reserves drop because there's no more left. It's all bound up with sugar and you crash. Has anyone ever felt that after they have let's say you're running behind and for breakfast you have a juice or something or a toast and by 10 a.m. you're like, did I even eat this morning? Because you used up all the insulin reserves and now you're on crash mode. It's kind of like the rabbit in the race against the turtle. You know, it's hurry fast and then crash, hurry fast and then crash, hurry fast and then crash. And when you eat a whole food, your body deals with it in a completely different way. It's a slow burn and it's slow, sustained energy, so you don't have that crash. There's other compounds like we talked about in the apple that slow down the increase in blood sugar. So there's things that bind. Is there sugar in an apple? Yeah, an apple's incredibly sweet. In fact, sometimes apple's too sweet for me. It's almost too cool now. Apple's sometimes too sweet for me. And there's sugar in that apple, but there's things that bind the sugar that make the absorption of that sugar slower, so you don't get a rise and a crash. Fake food. This is one of my pet peeves. So let's say we're going vegan. All right, we're going to be vegan. So now we have to go find food that looked like the food we ate before we were vegan, but it's really not. So we have to go find chicken nuggets that are not chicken. Why? Why? Why do we have to do that? So what do you think's actually in here? You know? Exactly. We don't want to know. And the food is full of fillers. It's not food that is going to fill your body. Now, go ahead and eat these carrot and celery sticks. That's fine. But don't eat those. This is one of my pet peeves. Just because you're doing a restrictive diet, don't go find fake versions of the food that you used to eat. Just change the way you eat. Easy cheese. What's easy cheese? What even is it? I don't even know. I don't even know what it is. I mean, it tastes good. It's like full of salt, right? Salt and fat. Salt and fat.
Like American cheese, right? I remember having American cheese all the time.
Don't you love that it has the name American on it? Don't you love that we're known for that kind of not even cheese? That kind of plastic? Yeah, it's wrapped in plastic and kind of is plastic.
They put plastic in it. I actually watched them make it one time.
Sweet.
They take real cheese and then they actually melt plastic and put it in it, and then
Awesome.
you get
Awesome.
and
Awesome.
all of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're eating plastic.
And I've researched actually quite a bit about when some of these fake fats, the margarine type fats, so the hydrogenated fats, trans fats, those sorts of things, they actually really do plasticize your cells. Every single cell is surrounded by a fat membrane. I talk about this in a lot of different versions, but every single cell has fat around the outside. That's just what a cell is made of. It's like good fat. We want it. But if all you feed your body is plastics, then your cells will actually be wrapped in plastic. And it literally is like saran wrapping your cells. They don't communicate with each other anymore. They stop working the way they should because you've made them out of plastic. They can only make them out of what you feed them.
Any type of cell?
Any type of cell. Every single cell in our body. Every single cell in our body has a fatty membrane, a lipid membrane it's called. This goes back to clearback biochemistry in college. Has a lipid membrane around the outside of it. Every single cell. So if all you feed your body is plastic fats, then every single cell you've now wrapped in saran wrap. Yep, they don't communicate anymore. They stop working.
All right, no more easy cheese.
Okay, how about gluten-free foods? Oh, this is such my soapbox too. When the gluten-free things started coming out, I was like, oh, seriously, people. Oh, we're going to now just have like fake gluten foods. And I kind of made fun of people. Oh, you think you're gluten-free? And then my daughter was told by a doctor that her stomach aches might be because of gluten. And so he recommended that we stop eating it in our family. My stomach felt better than it had in 20 years, and I was ticked off because that meant that I also had some gluten sensitivity issues. I was mad. I'm like, am I going to have to go buy all this junk? No, because what do they add to this to make it taste good? Sugar, fat, and salt. Remember, that's what they make things taste good with. So if these don't have wheat anymore in them, nobody seems to ask, well, what does it have in it? Yeah, it's mostly starches. Tapioca starch, potato starch, all these other starches, corn starch, it's mostly starches. So these are going to spike your blood sugar and drop you like a rock again. So if you don't eat wheat, guess what? An apple doesn't have wheat in it. Neither does pepper. Neither does, I mean, I can list 100 different foods now that don't have wheat in it. You don't have to go eat fake wheat things to be able to be gluten-free. I know, because I do. That's the way I eat it. Real food is just plain food. It's just plain food.
I have a question. Do you do sourdough?
I do sourdough. Yep, and that's how I have wheat. And I have different kinds of wheat as well. I don't use the typical hybridized wheat. So that's a whole other class. We'll talk about how to bake. Yeah, how to bake in today's world and how to handle grains. In fact, we need to schedule that, Laura. That's one of mine. And we're going to actually make food in that one. Minimal processing. So grocery shopping 101. You've probably heard this. Where should you shop? Outside of the store. Because what's in the outside of the store? Think about it. Produce is like, I'm thinking through what I do when I go to the grocery store, There's produce. There's breads if you want them, but the kind without a lot of additives or preservatives. There's then the meat, the whatever, all around the outside, right? Where's all the processed stuff?
In the middle.
Up the aisles. Sometimes I go to the grocery store, I have never even touched one of those middle aisles. I don't even go up there, unless I need like olives. Unfortunately, they're in a middle aisle. That's the way to shop. And if you're spending a lot of time in the middle aisles, go back out. Don't leave the middle, go back out to the outside. Okay, whole foods. So this is the last one, whole foods. We're going to talk about the whole picture of this all, how to combine foods. Combining foods is going to blow your mind, and it's going to be something, and actually I put that in the handout because it has literally been life-changing for me, and in moderation. So when we talk about whole picture, like Laura said, this example of a patient of ours. So she was just doing what she'd been told. She was eating a lot of greens. She was drinking a large green smoothie for breakfast. She was eating a great big salad for lunch with dark leafy greens, which we're told to do, and then she was eating usually some cooked greens and some other greens for dinner. When we saw her at first, what we found was that one tooth in her head was hitting, and it was because it had a porcelain crown. All the other teeth were literally dissolving away. She didn't know why, had no idea what was going on. She thought the crown was the problem. I said, no, the crown's just fine. It's all the rest of the teeth that are the problem. So we dug into, what are you eating? How are you eating? I eat great. I do all these things. And we finally, she told me, well, I eat greens for this green. I said, well, no, how many greens do you eat? And so she went through it. And we talked about how there's something called oxalic acid in dark leafy greens. And in moderation, it's fine. But if that's all you're eating, the oxalic acid actually binds the calcium. So anything that you've eaten that green with, the calcium in that food is no longer available for your body to use. So she was completely depleting her body of calcium because of all the greens she was eating, and her body was stealing calcium from her teeth now. So it was literally dissolving the teeth away. So it was all about moderation and having the whole food spectrum represented. So when we talk about these restrictive diets, just don't do it. Have some of everything. Just have the whole food. If you're going to have a bean, have a whole bean. If you're going to have some meat, just have the meat. If you're going to have grains, well, we'll talk about grains later. But just have the whole food. Have the whole food and the way, and have a wide variety of foods. I love color. I love color on my plate. Like if I have a plate of food that's all like light brown, it just makes me sad. You need color. Think about, what could make this plate more colorful? What can make this salad more colorful? Oh, that's a good idea. Let's throw that on there. Whole foods. Okay, I don't like this chart as well as I like the one on your handout. So I want to go through the one on your handout. It's the last page, both sides.
Everybody have one?
Does everybody have a handout? Okay. And Laura, let's put the handout on, we'll send it out as an email. So whomever's watching, if you want that, you can request it if you're not on our email list. You need to get it on our email list if you're not. Okay, different foods are metabolized differently in our bodies, and they shouldn't be eaten at the same time. I learned this years ago, and I didn't understand it at all. So I want to try to present it in a way that helps you understand it. So when you eat protein, so the cool thing is nowadays everybody knows what protein is because everybody knows the keto diet. Everybody knows, like in the old days we'd say, eat protein. We'd think, Oh, okay, protein is. What's a protein? So protein is meat, cheese, poultry, fish, eggs. It even includes soy in that list and some nuts too. So those things are all proteins. When we eat protein foods, it requires acid juices for us to digest that protein food. And think about it. I mean, do you think it's easier for your stomach to digest a piece of lettuce or a steak? This is an easy question, right? You know, it's obviously going to take much more work for that stomach to digest that steak. Can it do it? For sure. But it's going to need a lot of acid in that stomach to do it, to break apart those protein bonds. That's one of the purposes of stomach acid, is to take proteins. Do you know what proteins are? Proteins are kind of cool. Proteins are a whole bunch of amino acids bunched together. So the best way I've heard it described is my name is Michelle. So out of the 24 letters, is there 24 or 26 letters in the alphabet? Apparently I've not been in school for a long time. 26 school teacher, yeah, exactly. Thank you, school teacher. And the 26 letters in the alphabet, we can make all of our names, right? All of our names are different, but they're using the same 26 letters. Okay, the same thing goes with proteins. We have the same amino acids put together in different combinations that make up all the proteins. So when you eat a protein, it hits the stomach. Part of the stomach acid's job is to break that protein up into the different amino acids. So it's like taking my name apart and putting the M over here, the I over here, the C over here, and breaking apart. Your body recognizes individual amino acids. It does not recognize proteins. Past the stomach, that's where it should be proteins. Past there, it should not be as a whole protein anymore. It should be an amino acid. If you don't have enough stomach acid to break apart that protein, it will pass through to the small intestine unbroken apart, and your body will say, warning, warning, I don't recognize this, the foreign invader. Guess what two of the biggest proteins are? Gluten and lactose. Why do you think so many people are gluten and dairy sensitive? Because if we don't have enough stomach acid to break those proteins apart, they're big proteins, we don't have enough stomach acid to digest them properly, they'll make their way down, the body says alert, 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 and all of a sudden now you've created an immune reaction to that protein, and now you have a sensitivity to gluten or dairy. So the more stomach acid you have, the better activity you have here, the better digestion you're going to have with proteins. So here's the problem. When you add carbohydrates to your stomach, it actually produces alkaline juices to digest. It doesn't require acidic juices to break apart because you're not breaking carbohydrates apart into amino acids. You're breaking carbohydrates apart into just simple sugars, and it's much easier to do that. So this is a science fair experiment now. You add alkaline juices, you add acidic juices, what's going to happen? They're going to neutralize each other out. They're going to neutralize each other out. So acid, alkaline, they're going to neutralize each other out. So if you eat proteins, which create acidic juices, with carbohydrates, which create alkaline juices, neither is going to digest very well. Isn't this interesting? Super interesting.
So Texas Roadhouse should not serve rolls before they have their steak.
They should not. It's just leading to a lot of indigestion later in the day.
An American diet. I mean, that's
Meat and potatoes.
Sandwiches.
Meat and potatoes, sandwiches, everything. Yep. Okay, so I have started doing this. I would say I'm probably 80%. Sometimes it's just nearly impossible to do it in our world, but I would say I'm probably 80% this way. It's been really interesting. I didn't have a lot of weight to lose, but I had like middle to lose. Do you know what I mean? You know, that stuff. I had middle to lose. It just went away. Like sometimes now I'm tucking my shirt, I'm like, oh, the middle's gone. Where'd it go? You know, this is really nice. It's because of this. I didn't change anything but this. So I think what's happening is I'm digesting my food now. I'm getting what I need for my food, so I don't need as much. And each piece that I'm eating is doing more. So we're going to make it simple. I'm going to keep going here for a minute. Okay, if you eat number 1 and 2 together, the competing enzymes and juices will fight and they won't digest properly. Some of the symptoms, if you've ever had any of these, gas, bloating, heartburn. Well, it's right here at the bottom of the first page, yeah. Some symptoms are gas, bloating, heartburn, stomach pain, malabsorption. You don't really know what that feels like other than just bleh. Indigestion and energy drain. Those are all things of your food not digesting properly. So now let's switch over to the back. There are 2 other groups. There are non-starchy vegetables. They are seriously the best players on the team. They can play with everybody. These are salads, roots, seeds, herbs, spices, nuts, seed butter, or seed oils. Butter. Aren't you excited the butter's on there? I'm so excited the butter's on there. These are good players. They play with everybody. So you can eat meat with any of these things. You can eat carbs with any of these things. We're going to start to think about how to create meals based on this. Fruit should be eaten alone. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? It should be eaten alone. And the reason is because it's the fastest thing to digest. So the best way I've heard this described is, let's say you eat a steak, and then for dessert, happens again, like in our world, right? For dessert, you have a nice fruit cobbler, okay? So you're following that steak with fruit. Well, fruit is fast digesting. It's trying to get through. It can't get past that steak. Guess what creates? It's that gassy, yucky feeling. So you eat fruit first. It should go in first. So now what I do is if I have fruit as part of the meal, I prep it and I have it on the counter as I'm prepping the rest of the meal. Whose kids come in or family comes in and wants to piece on the food as you're prepping it, right? Now I say, go ahead, eat that watermelon right there in that bowl. Awesome, eat that while we're eating. And I eat it, while I'm cooking. We eat it while we're cooking. That way it's on its way down the pipes before we put anything else in. So fruit should be first. Fruit should be first.
Salads are a no-no.
What's that?
Fruits and salads.
Isn't that a bummer?
I love fruit.
I know. Eat them first. Eat the fruit first and then follow it with the salad. Order dessert first. There you go. That's the solution to everything right there. Exactly. Melons are the fastest of all. Melons shouldn't be part of your meal at all. They should be totally a pre-meal. Pre-meal. Or a snack. Snack in the middle of the day. They will move faster than anything else. So if you have bloating, gas, indigestion, that's what's going to happen when you eat fruit as part of the meal. I know it's a little bit of a bummer, but you know what? You get used to it. 2 hours after a carb meal, and then you can eat protein. So it's not like for the rest of your existence. If you eat meat, you can't eat a protein again, or a carb again. It's 2 hours. It's 2 hours. You got to let the carb move through, and then you can start eating protein. Protein takes a little longer. Again, this is common sense. Think about it. Do you think a potato or a piece of steak is going to move faster through your digestive system? Of course, a potato. Just think about it. I mean, this is like you can think things through, and they make sense in your head. So 2 hours to get a carb pass through, 3 hours to get protein pass through. So what I do, this is just my rule of thumb now, is I have fruit by itself. So now when I make a smoothie in the morning, I don't know if any of you guys have noticed my smoothies I'm bringing in this morning nowadays.
They're a different color.
They're fruit. All they are is fruit. It's all fruit. Just fruit.
Okay.
Because that's my first thing in the morning. And I'm just feeding my body some quick carbs, whatever. By 10 or 11, I'm kind of ready for some food, But it's just fruit by itself. Then I think, okay, do I want a grain meal or a meat meal? So let's talk through some combinations. A grain meal. Grain meals are actually pretty easy. It's going to be, your base is going to be some sort of a carb. So it's going to be rice. It's going to be quinoa. It's going to be a pasta. It's going to be, what's that?
Not my oatmeal.
Oatmeal.
Oatmeal's okay.
Yeah. Any of those things, those are carbs. You just don't want to put whole milk on that.
Okay.
You could put a seed milk on that, and that would be okay. But not a cow's milk on that because that's a protein.
Put cream on it.
Can you?
Yeah, because it's one of the best.
And butter.
Look at that. You can put butter and cream on that oatmeal. Isn't that the most delicious thing ever?
It's our go-to.
Well, maple syrup's okay.
So what if you use kefir?
I don't know the answer to that question, but let's think about it.
Because you've taken out the lactose.
Uh-huh. So the question is, does it have a high protein content still?
Well, it would
I
be
don't know.
your cream.
So that's a good question. That's a good question. How does that fit? In what category does that fit? We're going to need to study that one a little bit and see. Yep. So grain meal's fairly easy. It's your bowl, right? It's your rice plus all your veggies on top of it. Now, what do you do if you want a little meat? Okay, just tonight, I had a rice bowl with falafel. I love falafel. Falafel's like fabulous. Falafel is a bean thing that they make into a little ball and cook up, and it's delicious. So I just don't add meat to my grain meals. Now you might think, well, what are my kids saying? Do they hate me, whatever? No, actually no, because the food's delicious. We're using all sorts of flavors and spices. Then the next day we're going to have a meat meal. This gets trickier, right? You think, well, what do you do with the meat? Because what are we grade to have? Your meat and your starch, right? You got to have it on the same plate together. You got to have meat and starch. Now we do a meat and a salad, or veggies, and lots of them. If you have a great big delicious salad, just think, okay, I can't put any carbs on that, so I'm not going to put a rice in there. I can put tons of veggies in there. That's fabulous. big salad. Or if we make it into a bowl, which we do a lot, we have lettuce as the base instead of rice as the base. And then we load up all the other stuff on top of it. We can have meat in that one now. So I just want you to think, is this a grain meal or a meat meal? So let's say, for example, if we're here, oftentimes we'll get lunch here. And so I just look at what we have and I go, okay, what do I really need today? Do I want the meat today or do I want the grain today? And it depends. The other day we had Mexican food come in and I went, I really want some of those chips. So I'm not going to have the chicken because I had the chips. So I can have all the rice, I can have all the beans, I can have all the lettuce, I can have the chips, I can have that all because I'm going to do a grain meal. But then, actually this is interesting, I took that food home as a leftover, okay, because I'm a magic with the leftovers. And that night I went, I had all the grains for lunch. I'm going to actually have just the lettuce and the meat and some salsa and some veggies on it this version around. So it was the same meal, but I had it in different ways. Does that make sense? You just think, is this the grain meal? Is this the meat meal? Which way am I going to do it? I really want you to try this. I really want you to try this. And I believe every single recipe that I've put in here follows the rules. If not, they almost do. Because I didn't really have time to look through and make sure. But I'm pretty sure.
Little things like raisins in a salad. No?
Yeah.
Or yes?
Raisins are fruit.
Okay. What about spaghetti? You have to have marinara sauce, not meat sauce, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy. There's lots
Like
of
math?
delicious. It's like math, exactly. 1 + 1 = 2. But all of these recipes in here follow the rules. So just read through them. You'll be surprised at how many wonderful things you can make, and it's easy.
Any type of stir fry, you just don't put it on a grain. Just have the
If you want the meat.
right?
Or if you don't have the meat, you have the grain. You just do lots of veggies. And you do a delicious sauce. Like this week I made a curry that was butternut squash and garbanzo bean curry. It was delicious, and we ate that on top of rice. And then I made a really yummy Indian coleslaw to go with it, which I need to send the recipe because my daughter said this is the best coleslaw I've ever eaten in my entire life, and I made it 2 days in a row, which I never do. So that was a really good recipe. Anyway, it'll be in the book, but we can preview it.
Is it in your cookbook that you have here?
Oh no, it'll be in the new book.
Oh, that one.
That one.
But doctor,
Yes.
this food combining, does it make you lose weight or does it make you just not have indigestion?
Both.
I'm counting on it then.
Because you hold on to fat because of malabsorption, poor digestion. That's why you hold on to the fat. It's insulation. Yeah. So stuff just starts to go away.
These rules apply to fish as well.
It's a protein. So just have it with a big salad and some wonderful veggies. Yep. And if you make it tasty, no one will miss it. It does make you have to think. You have to think just a little bit. So I do meal planning. Every Sunday I do meal planning. And I just think, okay, let's say I'm going to do 2 meat meals and 3 grain meals a week. I just plan them, what they're going to be. Now, my family doesn't always follow all the rules, but they do if I cook it. So, okay, in moderation. Don't you love this picture? This would be a keto meal, right? Problem is, it follows the food combining rules, right? It's all protein. So it's probably going to digest fairly well. But are you missing anything? A lot of stuff, the eyebrows. There should be some peppers right here. Yeah, exactly, a nose, a cherry tomato. But there's things missing. And do you, yeah, what's,
Just vegetables.
yeah.
Is all you could add to that.
Yeah, salad, vegetables, both. Yeah, because do you think that these 2 foods have everything that a body might need to be healthy in them? Every mineral, every vitamin? No, of course not. So this is why moderation is important. We've lived in the fat-free world. We've lived in the carb-free world. Why would we leave out essential building blocks? Just make sure it's the right fat, the right carb. Laura likes it, just make sure it's the right fat, the right carb. I don't know if that one is. This one is great. So just make sure it's the right fat, the right carb, and in the right amount. So how did we change our diet? So let's get to the actual, real stuff, because sometimes it's hard to do it all the time. So we started slow, and then we picked up momentum. Step 1, we just added more fruits and veggies to our food, to our meals. Just if that's all you can do for right now, just add some more fruits and veggies. Step number 2, we took out whites from the diet. So what would whites be?
White flour, sugar.
White flour,
Rice.
white rice, white sugar, whites. Meals
Okay,
that.
so, but you still do brown rice.
Mhm. Yep.
What about potatoes?
Depends. You know what? I think a potato every now and then is just fine, as long as you don't eat it with meat.
And you can put butter
And sweet
sour
potatoes.
cream on.
Totally, sweet potatoes are fabulous. Not sour cream, but well,
that's
cream.
very-
Yeah, cream. Now I'm learning.
Sour cream is made with cream.
If it really is made with cream, that's a problem. Exactly. Most in the store is not made that way. But yeah, butter. Put all the butter. In fact, my kids. So when I started learning about the benefits of butter, and butter, if you want to know, Kerrygold butter in the gold packages is the best butter for multiple reasons. Primary reason is because it is from grass-fed cows. When the cow is fed grass, the milk has vitamin K in it, K2, which is essential for healthy bones, healthy teeth, healthy bodies. So grass-fed cows is really important. So as I was starting to learn some of these things, I told my family that we were going to start eating butter, and my family was like, yes, finally a health food we can get behind, you know? They're like, can we just substitute kale for butter in all foods at all times? Like, sure, just take the kale out, put the butter in. That's a great way to do it. But it's good for you. So, that's the thing that's hard sometimes when you grew up in this low-fat world. It's like, butter? No, butter's evil. Eggs are evil. No, they're not evil. Just have them in the right amounts and the right time. They're great. Step 4, simple breakfasts and lunches. Oftentimes, we're not actually eating breakfasts and lunches, right? We're eating on the run. So have some things set up ahead of time. That's actually going to be another part of this book is menu prep. Sunday or weekend menu prep. What do you cook or what do you buy and how do you prep for the whole rest of the week? And that's how I do it because I'm busy. I got a lot of things going on. I probably cook five to 6 days a week. I cook. And it's because I prep ahead. And that's how we do breakfasts and lunches. Lunches is always leftovers. But do simple. Get rid of the acid. I'm not exactly sure what I meant by the acid. I guess a lot of times that's soda. That's some of those things that actually add a lot of acid and make your stomach not work as well. And then whole food treats and snacks. So these are just some of the steps that we went through. I just recommend that you start small. Start small to change big. So make small goals. Just do one step for a week or even a month. This is a lifelong thing. It's not a fad that's going to go in and out. This is how you eat. This is how you use food. This is a food IQ test that's kind of interesting to do there on the front. So you can do that food IQ test. You can see where your yes and your no answers line up. There's a lot of basics on this sheet about the way your body works, some of the things that I've covered today, and then just lots of recipes in here. Try them out. Let me know how you think. Let me know what you think about them, how you like them. These are family and kid-tested foods. Some of these things, there's one, this Asian nut sauce down here at the bottom. I don't know what page it is. Asian nut sauce. I have taken that to so many family gatherings, friend gatherings, those kinds of things. I've had people dip Subway sandwiches in that, which to me is just an adulteration of that food. But they are like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted in my life. Okay? You add that to the way we usually do it is with a spring roll. You could add that easily to a rice and veggies, and you add that Asian nut sauce. People will be licking their bowl clean. It's just some simple things like that you can add to make a big difference in the way the food works. Make sure to sign up for our Total Care Dental and Wellness emails, all of you on Facebook, all of you watching the video, all of you here, because we're going to send lots of stuff out. This is what I love to share. So we're going to be sending recipes and all sorts of things. Hopefully Laura wrote down what I said I was going to share. But Tony did. Okay, good.
Texting it to me, just hit it with my phone.
Okay, very good, Tony. Tony will take care of us. I don't want this to be confusing. I know this is a lot. So like I said, pick one thing. Just pick one thing. You go, okay, I'm just going to have one fruit, a day, or I'm going to add one extra vegetable a day, whatever it might be. Just start slow, and then you'll find, oh, I feel better. My kids like it, and my family's happy with that. All right, let's maybe try one more thing, and just work your way through some of these steps. Good. Questions? Any questions? You guys ask questions as you went along. So
Did you
yes.
make that coconut milk or yogurt?
I did not make that yogurt.
Trader Joe's.
Oh, it is?
Trader Joe made that yogurt though.
But it was good, huh?
It was good. Normally the coconut ones aren't
So
good.
what was
Uh-huh.
the name of that butter, Michelle?
Kerrygold.
Kerrygold.
Now you can find it any store or Costco, and it's in the gold box. You'll see it.
Winco or Walmart
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere.
It is good.
It is good. Yeah. More butter, less
What
kale.
about these rice noodles you speak of? Those are white, but they don't have gluten.
You can have brown rice noodles. There's a lot of brown rice noodles.
There are?
There are. My favorite brand is called Tinkyata. Has a little rabbit on it. Look for the one with a little rabbit on it because they don't get mushy and nasty.
You don't worry about the arsenic.
Well, you know, there's probably arsenic in most of the rice that we're eating.
I know. I eat rice.
It's kind of one of those things that I figure if you're eating 90% fabulous, hopefully it'll make up for some of those things because I can't live my life in a scarcity, scared place. Do you know what I mean? Because I could probably find something terrible about every single food we eat. I can't live that way. I have to live in the this is good, this is better, and I'm going to go for better. That's just the way I work it.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Asian, you have agave.
So I used that recipe quite a while ago. What I would actually add now is honey. Yeah, just do honey.
With agave.
Agave is very processed.
Is it the same agave they put in tequila?
No, it's the same plant though. It's the same plant that makes tequila. But yeah, I would just substitute honey. You want that or molasses. You want that warm, richer flavor. Yeah, this actually was a recipe that I made quite a while ago, and I've learned some things about agave since. Good. Tony, you had a question?
Oh, I was just gonna say, when I know I'm gonna make rice, I soak my rice for like 3 or 4 hours to get a lot of the arsenic.
The even better way to do it is add some acid to it. So I add about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and let it soak in that, and then rinse it completely in hot water. And it'll rinse off most of what's going on there. Yeah. In large amounts, yeah. Very good.
Is molasses in the same realm as honey? Where do you get a good molasses?
It is not as in the same realm as honey. It has the same flavor profile as honey. Honey's going to be better. Honey's going to be better.
Rich, dark flavor of molasses.
Yeah, it is. But molasses is kind of the end of a process of processing sugar. I think it's better than white sugar. That's the other version of the sugar. But yeah, honey's great. Honey's a really nice sugar. There's some other sweeteners now. Again, I kind of question them. Erythritol, some of these other Truvia we use. Stevia is fabulous. Stevia is just a plant. Stevia comes from a plant. So stevia is great, but it makes a kind of a little bit of an acidic, chemically taste. It's a little odd. It's a little odd.
What about erythritol? That's what I've been using.
I use erythritol some as well. I just always wonder, anything that like sounds like that, you know?
Sounds like rubbing alcohol.
Yeah, it's like,
date
you know.
sugar?
Date sugar is great. Date sugar is a really high glycemic sugar, so you're not going to use a lot of it, but actually date sugar is a great way to get that warm, molassesy flavor. There's actually date honey. Yeah, there's date honey you can get. There's date paste, which is thick. There's date honey, which is actually squeezable.
We love dates.
Yeah, yeah, super sweet. Dates, I can like eat one bite and my head goes, it's sugar, it's so sweet. But it's a very good sweetener though. It's a natural sweetener.
I think they just remind me
good.
of Palm Springs.
Yes.
So I dig 'em.
Maple, get the B grade. Yep. I like maple syrup. It's processed, but I loved when I went to the place that was processing maple sugar because I saw what they do to process it. They just boil it forever. So there's different versions of processing. Do you know what I mean? When you process a food and you take a piece of corn and you make it into a high fructose corn syrup, that's processing. When you take sugar out of a tree and boil it for a long time, that's processing too, but I'm okay with that kind of processing versus making it into something completely different than what it originated as. Yeah. Good questions, everybody. Thank you for coming. Hopefully these things have been good and helpful and educational.